What's happening, Expeditioners? It's Peter Waitzman here, founder of Expedition Money. I want to talk to you today about something that a buddy of mine told me about that he did to feed himself when he was really broke. And I don't mean broke, oh, I have no money in my account, but I have this line of credit or credit card. I mean, essentially homeless. No money, no friends, no resources, no access to a shelter or a phone or anything where he could call and get a little bit of emergency help, and he talked about ways that he found food. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. These are not suggestions on how to feed yourself, but you might find yourself honestly in a life or death situation, maybe because of a natural disaster in your area. It certainly happens. And happened to the poor people in Hawaii this last summer. You might find yourself in another country where you can't speak the language, you don't have any technology, maybe you got robbed. My cousin was in Africa and she got totally robbed of everything that she owned in one fell swoop and was lucky to get out of there with her life in many ways. So you just might find yourself in that situation, and it doesn't take long before you find yourself pretty hungry, and you might not have technology, money, or assets to make that phone call that you need. So one of the things that I wanted to tell you here was just a little bit of his tips on putting food in your belly when you have literally no options. So one of them is dumpster diving. You go into the alley behind a restaurant, you go into the back of an IHOP, and there is usually food there. Probably not great, but you can do it. A lot of people probably have done this. They wait for the end of the day when they're dumping out food. Maybe you appeal to the good nature of the people working there. In some cases, you can go into a restaurant and tell them that you don't have any food. This is not necessarily going to be met with maybe a lot of compassion, depending on how you look. If you look like a normal person, you might actually do better off than if you look homeless. If you look homeless and destitute, maybe that's going to tug at their heartstrings, but it's counting on their charity. The other thing that he said he's done here, and I didn't think about this at the time, he's gone into places like an IHOP, a restaurant, a diner, and kept an eye out or stayed in the foyer of it and watched until people were done with their food. They paid their bill, and oftentimes they would leave food on their plate, and he would just go in quickly when they left or getting up and leaving, and he would go and sit down and quickly finish their food. Now, he said he's never been stopped, but I feel like sometimes people might stop. They might recognize, hey, you're not the person who ordered this food. They might kick you out. But as he said, he wasn't sitting there trying to have an hour-long meal. Sometimes there's not a lot of food left. It's just about getting some food into your belly. It doesn't matter that they have used the silverware before. It doesn't matter that they have eaten most of that food. You are just trying to get a warm, hot meal. It obviously was good for someone 30 minutes ago. And so he has just done that where he has sharked someone's meal after they have leftovers on their plate and then hightailed it out of there, and not stealing the money or anything like that, but just when you are real desperate, what can you do? And actually, Robin Williams said something once that like an empty wallet and an empty stomach to really find out who you are, or something to that effect. And I can understand that. There have been times when I have been pretty desperate and didn't know where to turn. And sometimes you might have family, but a lot of people don't, and they're thinking about these practical things. And so I just wanted to open your eyes up to this. I am hoping that no one here ever has to do anything like this, but you might want to park it in the back of your mind in case sometime you get really desperate. But just understand that there are people out there suffering and struggling with these practical problems in modern day America today, maybe in the city that you live, maybe in your neighborhood, maybe the people next door. And while it sounds a little bit out there, just remember that people are struggling, especially if you are struggling with some of the things that may be big problems to you. They may not look like big problems to other people too. So maybe that gives you a little perspective as you're working on your own finances. But just wanted to share that story with you. Thought it was really interesting. Thought it was a nice gesture for someone to be open and honest about kind of their financial struggles in the past. So hopefully that helps. Maybe gives you a little inspiration or some ideas for helping out others. I'll see you later.